What's good? We back. Motor City Sports Talk. We in the building. Appreciate everybody for checking in. New to the channel, or if you haven't, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, bell icon button. Won't miss another video. Let's get into some Detroit sports talk, Detroit Lions in particular, and let's talk about Jimmy Graham. You know, Jimmy Graham is expected to be cut by the Green Bay Packers. Seen that last week around the net. So he was kind of supposed to replace Jordy Nelson. Didn't do a great job last year at all. Always liked Jimmy Graham, man. It just seemed like he ain't been the same since he left New Orleans and Drew Brees, so he might be a product of a system. Obviously, it's been some talk that Darrell Bevell is the Detroit Lions. He's the Detroit Lions' new offensive coordinator. He worked with Jimmy Graham in Seattle, and that he could bring Jimmy Graham over to the Lions, but I don't think they had great chemistry in Seattle. To be honest, you know, Jimmy Graham, they didn't know how to utilize Jimmy Graham, so what's different here is that Stafford is a pocket quarterback, and that's pretty much the difference. The Lions haven't been able to take advantage of any matchups that they tight ends had since Stafford got here. You know, the only time I really can remember that is being done is in the red zone, and particularly with Joe Fourier. You know, other than that, you know, the Lions have never, you know, had and exploited mismatches with a tight end. May have been Pettigrew, you know, most of the part Fourier outside the red zone. May have been Eric Ebron, who Lions fans went crazy in his first Pro Bowl in his new team, the Colts. He scored a touchdown yesterday, the first touchdown in Pro Bowl I heard. Didn't watch the Pro Bowl, pretty boring. And you know, it is what it is, man. You know, so they haven't done well with exploiting tight ends, and Darrell Bevell didn't do well with Jimmy Graham in Seattle. Now, that could have been Russell Wilson or I don't know what, but we haven't had a lot of successful tight ends, selecting tight ends and utilizing tight ends. And, you know, you could blame that on Linehan and them evaluating Pettigrew, and people blame Pettigrew for years. I think Pettigrew was one of the lines I just didn't like the most, especially in Tennessee when they took the ball from him and took it the other way and scored. I don't know how many Lions fans remember that. You know, I didn't really care for Ebron, but he went to Indianapolis and showed that the Lions would utilize him wrong. Fury, I don't understand why he got cut. I heard he was childish and he had the injury. He lied about the injury, so that's one tight end I did like, Joe Fourier. But obviously he's no longer in our league. But Jimmy Graham last year had 2 touchdowns. It looked like a lot of drops. It looked like, but he didn't do much last year. He didn't do much. So, you know, the most targets he had was 11 and 10 targets. Other than that, everything was in single digits. So he just didn't fit in the West Coast system. And Darrell Bevell brings the West Coast system again. And I think it's best for Jimmy Graham to go back to New Orleans, take a pay cut, and see if Sean Payton and Drew Brees can recreate some magic. Obviously, they have a hole for tight end there with Ben Watson. He about 1,000 years old. And that's what I would do. I wouldn't want Jimmy Graham on the Lions at this point. I wanted him last season. I thought Jimmy Graham would have been an excellent fit for us. I thought he would have been a better fit than Gronk. Gronk looked old. Obviously, if you didn't know, Gronkowski was traded to the Lions last year, but he threatened to retire, so he didn't make it. He didn't make it to Detroit. So, you know, so that's the deal with him. But, you know, Jimmy Graham just don't seem to have the same physicality. He don't seem to digest the play. He don't seem to be the route runner he was in New Orleans. And, you know, for the Lions, it'll just, you know, I understand trying to get a veteran tight end, but this is just be a temporary plug. You know, I don't think Jimmy Graham could be great for us. He don't have the same acceleration, the burst. It don't look like he mastered the route tree. He just don't look the same player outside of New Orleans. And what's different between what he did in Seattle and what he done in Detroit? Nothing. Darrell Bevell couldn't get the best out of him in Seattle, you know. Only thing you banking on is Stafford. Just him and Stafford forms a great rapport. But a lot of things they did in New Orleans was due to Drew Brees' accuracy and timing and, you know, just, you know, chemistry with Jimmy Graham. I haven't seen Stafford have none of that with none of his tight ends. And he had a talented tight end in Ebron we see, and he just couldn't establish that. So Jimmy Graham been dropping balls. No way, Jose. I don't want Jimmy Graham here at this point. He can get it done with Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. How do we expect him to get it done with Matthew Stafford at this point? I don't think we can just sit here and look at it and say, okay, Jimmy Graham. No, you know, Jimmy Graham is on the downside of his career, and the only way he can revitalize his career It's going with Tom Brady or going with Drew Brees, in my opinion, or maybe going with Jared Goff in LA. But pretty much, I think the Lions got a tough pickle to do, man. But they're in a tough pickle, in my opinion, man, with tight end, because rookie tight ends take a long time for them to develop. They've shown they can't develop tight ends. So they got to take a veteran and possibly a rookie too, Let's go with two tight ends, probably cut Roberts. They keeping Toyota, I believe. I call him Toyota, the guy from Atlanta, as a blocker. But I truly believe that the Lions is going to have to go out there and draft a young tight end and get a veteran. Maybe you get Jimmy Graham at a good price. I hope he articulates into something for the offense. But pretty much, I mean, it's tough. It's tough out there, man. If you get Jimmy Graham at a good price, so be it, man. See if it can work out. But I definitely will still probably draft a tight end 3rd, 4th, 5th round and develop him, under my system. But pretty much, I don't know. I just know Darrell Bevell like tight ends that can stretch the field and do a lot of crossing routes and get vertical. That's what I know about him. And Jimmy Graham likes to get vertical, but he ain't a burner. He's a guy that boxes you out, keep you on his hip like the basketball player was. He was for University of Miami, and go up there and catch it. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I'm not interested in him no more. And I think it'd be like bringing LeGarrette Blount in last season. I think he'd be on this last little quarter tank of gas, and I think half of that quarter tank is going to be knocked out in training camp in the first couple weeks of season. And then, they can try it. I mean, it ain't going to cost you a lot. It's not expensive, but ain't that the story of the Lions, getting old, washed-up players to come here at the end of their career, hoping they got a little bit left in the tank left? Go younger. If you go get Jimmy Graham, you still got to go younger. Get you a young, spry little tight end that can come in and learn behind Toyota, learn behind Jimmy Graham. It can grow with Matthew Stafford, you know what I'm saying? But Darrell Bevell, I don't care if Darrell Bevell, coach Jimmy Graham in Seattle. But what did Jimmy Graham do in Seattle? Jack shit. Excuse my language. Jimmy Graham didn't do nothing in Seattle. Jimmy Graham was a forgotten man. That's how he ended up in Green Bay. He wasn't a value. As soon as Jimmy Graham got outside that Sean Payton and Drew Brees system, he was absolutely trash. He was never the Pro Bowl, or if he was an all-pro tight end, he was never that again. So we acting like Darrell Bevell did something great, or people acting, I'm not going to say we, people acting like Darrell Bevell did something great with Jimmy Graham. He did not. And if Aaron Rodgers can bring the best out of him, how do we expect Matthew Stafford to? When Matthew Stafford led a Pro Bowl tight end and Eric Ebron, him and Jim Bob Cooter walked to Indianapolis, and Indianapolis was able to use his vertical ability and make him a Pro Bowler. Yeah, he dropped some balls, with Indianapolis. You know what I'm saying? But he made a lot of catches. He was able to showcase his physical talent down the field. He was able to go high point the ball and catch a lot of touchdowns, a lot of wheel routes, a lot of post corner routes, a lot of corner routes, a lot of post routes. I mean, he did a lot of things with Indianapolis that got vertical. He wasn't asked to, do a rollout. I mean, do a zig route or go to the flats and try to catch and make something happen. They was able to feature his ability to get downfield with his speed and athletic ability, and that's what the Detroit Lions never featured from their tight ends. Luke Wilson was a guy that was with Darrell Bevell in Seattle, and he was able to get a lot out of him with his vertical game, able to get vertical down the field and stretch the field with his speed. Jim Bob Cooter didn't take advantage of Luke Wilson's speed. All he did was do that same shit that he did with Eric Ebron. Bootleg, to the flats. The quarterback bootleg, he go to the flats, or he do a little drag route or a shallow crossing route, and that's it. The tight ends in this offense only run a couple plays, a couple routes. In Jim Bob Cooter offense, you need your guys like Luke Wilson and Eric Ebron to get vertical, And in Tampa too, run the post route between the safeties and the linebacker. Get vertical, play the get vertical, in the slot. Do something. They won't allow them to get vertical, man. Won't allow them to, run nothing but that little flat route and that little drag and shallow crossing route. That's what they run. And maybe Darrell Bevell can convince the Lions something else that he can get the best out of Jimmy Graham with Stafford. But I believe when I see it, I wouldn't pay him much. You know what I'm saying? I might pay him with a bridge card until he produce something, but that was a joke. But I appreciate everybody for checking on. Let me know what you think. Should the Lions consider bringing Jimmy Graham in? I say no at this point. I think the best place for Jimmy Graham is go back to New Orleans. If it don't work there, it's time to turn off the lights, light a candle, retire, you feel me? But I appreciate everybody for checking on. Don't forget we on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can reach out to me in an email if you got a business question, inquiry, sponsorship, or a video request. Also, we'll make a donation to the channel. That link's in the description as well. You do me one better. Share the videos. And see y'all again later. Probably do a video later. Pistons will come back to Tuesday. Perhaps more Lions talk.